Riley makes up ridiculous knock-knock jokes that don't even make sense and still expects everyone to laugh. She has one sibling whom she entertains nightly without running out of material. Yet she cannot say goodbye to her stepdad. None of it adds up, and that's exactly the point. She is a 7-year-old girl who contains multitudes that the adults around her keep flattening into one word: shy. Riley has selective mutism, and I want to talk about what that actually means. It's an anxiety disorder at core, not defiance, not rudeness, and definitely not a phase. In familiar environments, kids with SM speak fluently, freely, sometimes relentlessly. But in certain social settings, something in the wiring locks. The words don't come out, not because the child doesn't want to, but because, neurologically, they can't. Riley's preschool director pulled her mother aside one afternoon during pickup, stating Riley doesn't talk at all at school. And then, before the mother could respond, it's a problem. The diagnosis that followed by the director was oppositional defiant disorder. If she doesn't speak within 6 months, she'll have to leave, the director added. I keep coming back to that moment. Not because the director was uniquely cruel, though the carelessness is genuinely hard to sit with, but because she's not the exception. She's the pattern. Pediatricians tell parents it's a phase. Teachers label SM children as difficult, stubborn, withdrawn. And parents, desperate for reassurance, accept those labels because the alternative is something they're not ready to name yet. Riley's mother accepted it too, for a while. She went back to Riley's teachers and said, "She's fine." She wasn't fine. She just had a mother who wasn't yet equipped to fight for what she couldn't see clearly. That's what happens when awareness is missing. When the adults who are supposed to catch this don't know what they're looking for, the child absorbs the gap. She learns that her silence is a problem to be managed, rather than a signal to be understood. So she adapts. She writes notes in a notebook instead of asking to use the bathroom. She nods and shakes her head while the room waits for something her body cannot produce in that moment. She doesn't choose not to speak. The words are simply not available. Not in that classroom, not in that hallway, not in front of that teacher. And because no one names it correctly, she names it herself. The only way a child can. She decides she is the problem. She builds, quietly and carefully, an entire life around her own absence. And if no one intervenes, this doesn't just resolve with age. Adults who had untreated SM describe lives shaped entirely around avoidance, fear of everyone, difficulty maintaining any relationship, because not everyone responds to selective mutism with ignorance. Some respond with hostility. They say selective mutism is a first-world problem caused by weak parents. The implication being that silence is a choice, and that it's a performance that deserves impatience rather than understanding. I think a lot of people encounter someone with SM and experience it as rudeness, as dismissal, because we have no cultural framework for involuntary silence. We understand physical disability because it's visible, but a child who can talk, who clearly can talk, who talks constantly at home, choosing not to talk at school? That reads, to a lot of people, as a choice. And choices, we feel comfortable judging. Riley spoke this about herself, actually, and the thing she said was so precise that it's hard to unhear. I don't like that people always focus on me talking. They ask questions like, "Why can't you talk?" and "When will you talk?" That's annoying. I have selective mutism. So what? There's more to me than that. She is 7 years old, and she has already learned to defend herself against the framework other people keep placing her inside. And it looks, from the outside, almost identical to strength, which is the thing that makes it so easy to miss what it's actually costing her. Riley can order a coffee cake pop from a Starbucks barista now. She's been in weekly cognitive behavioral therapy for almost 2 years. She's worked her way up what her mother calls the conversational ladder, gradually expanding the circle of people she can speak with. Progress is real. But she still can't tell her grandparents she loves them over the phone. She still can't ask her teacher permission to use the restroom. She writes it in a notebook instead. She still reaches for her mother's hand when a stranger introduces themselves, her fingers finding that anchor before the silence arrives. And her mother had to unlearn something to get here. She had to relinquish the expectation she had about who her daughter was and who she thought she should be. Most of us, if we're honest, do the same thing when we encounter someone's silence. We fill it. We interpret it. We make it mean something about us, that we're boring or threatening or not worth speaking to. We rarely sit with the possibility that the silence may have nothing to do with us and everything to do with something the other person is carrying that we haven't thought to ask about.
If you've lived this as a parent, as a child, as someone who didn't get the diagnosis until much later, I want to hear from you in the comments. For more such psychological deep dives, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.